Look around you right now. Your window, your phone, your glasses if you wear them, the light bulb above your head, the screen you're watching this on, all glass. Now here's the strange part. You didn't notice any of it until I pointed it out. That's not an accident. Humans built an entire civilization on a material they designed to disappear. You're not supposed to see it. You're supposed to see through it. This is the story of the most important material in human history. It didn't just change what we could see, it changed what we could think and who we thought we were. Start with sand. Not special sand, not rare sand, the ordinary kind. The kind under your feet at the beach, blowing around in the desert, or sitting at the bottom of every river on Earth. Now, apply heat, enormous heat, around 1700 degrees Celsius. The sand melts. Now cool it, but cool it fast, too fast for the atoms to organize themselves. In a normal solid, atoms line up in perfect repeating crystal structures, like soldiers in formation. In glass, the cooling happens so quickly that the atoms freeze mid-movement. That frozen disorder is why glass is transparent. Light passes through because there's no organized structure to stop it. Glass isn't really a solid. It's not really a liquid. It's something in between, a material that failed to fully crystallize. And in that failure, became something nothing else in nature is. When lightning strikes desert sand at the right temperature, the sand melts and cools in seconds. It becomes glass. Long, twisted, translucent tubes buried underground, created by electricity and nothing else. Scientists call them fulgurites. They've been forming in deserts for millions of years, long before any human was around to notice. The oldest glass on Earth wasn't made by us. We just eventually figured out what nature had been doing all along. The earliest man-made glass dates to around 3500 BC. Egypt, Mesopotamia, tiny beads, decorative objects. Nobody understood the physics. They just knew it was beautiful, rare, unlike anything else. And for thousands of years, that was the ceiling. Glass as jewelry, as curiosity, something precious, not useful. That changes around 50 BC. Someone in Syria discovers something that reshapes the entire future of the material. The blowpipe. A hollow metal tube. You gather molten glass on one end and blow into the other. The glass expands like a bubble, thin, even, and suddenly workable in ways that were never possible before. By the 13th century, Venice controls trade between Europe and the East. Spices, silk, gold, all of it flows through Venice. And one of the most valuable things it produces is glass. Not ordinary glass, something different. Something so refined it has its own name. Cristallo. Perfectly clear, impossibly thin. Glass so flawless it makes everything produced anywhere else look like a dirty window. Venetian glassmakers guard every step of the process. The raw materials, the temperatures, and the exact timing. In 1291, Venice makes a decision that reveals exactly how much this secret is worth. The entire glassmaking industry, every furnace, every craftsman, every family, is forcibly relocated to Murano, a small island a mile offshore, surrounded by water, watched at all times. The official reason is fire safety. Furnaces in the city are a risk. The real reason is that Venice cannot afford for this knowledge to leave. Murano glassmakers are compensated generously. They can carry swords. Their daughters can marry into noble families and they live better than most people in Europe. But the water between Murano and Venice isn't just a firebreak. It's a cage. Try to leave, or try to tell someone outside how it's done. And the Council of Ten, Venice's most powerful governing body, has already considered what to do with you. Your family knows this. You know this. For nearly 3 centuries, nobody leaves. The money flows. The monopoly holds. The rest of the world buys Venetian glass and has no idea how it's made. In the 16th century, Venetian glassmakers perfect something new, a mirror. Not the polished metal discs that existed before. Those gave you a dim, distorted smear of yourself. This is different, a coating of tin and mercury behind flat glass. Clear, sharp, accurate. For the first time in human history, people can see exactly what they look like. This sounds trivial. It isn't. A single large Venetian mirror sells for the equivalent of a small house. Kings and nobles import them at enormous cost. A mirror is the most expensive object in most rooms it occupies. And something starts to shift in European culture. Before the mirror, identity was collective. You were your family, your guild, your village, your faith. The individual face wasn't something you spent much time with because you couldn't see it clearly enough to contemplate. The clear mirror changes that. Suddenly there is a face, yours, specific, unmistakable, something to examine, to manage, to compare. Vanity in the modern sense becomes possible. Portraiture explodes, fashion accelerates. The idea of the individual self as something separate, distinct, worth thinking about quietly intensifies. Historians debate exactly how much credit to give the mirror, but the timing is hard to ignore. The Renaissance, the rise of humanism, the beginning of the idea that a single human life is worth documenting, painting, examining in detail. All of it happens in the same century that clear mirrors became available to enough people to matter. A piece of glass, an entire shift in how humans think about themselves. By the mid-1600s, Louis XIV was building Versailles. The Hall of Mirrors, 73 meters long, 357 mirrors, designed to reflect the wealth of France back at anyone who walks through it, requires glass on a scale Venice has never produced for anyone at any price. Louis XIV sends an offer to Murano. Venice refuses. So in 1665, France does something else. French agents make contact with glassmakers on the island, quietly, carefully. The offer is simple. Come to France, bring your knowledge, and you will be protected and paid. Several of the best glassmakers on Murano agree. They are smuggled out of Venice in secret, transported to Paris. Venice's response is swift and cold. Agents follow. Diplomats threaten. And then, according to multiple historical accounts, something darker. Letters to the families left behind. Warnings. At least one glassmaker dies in France under circumstances nobody explains. Others go home, terrified. But the knowledge is already out. By 1688, France's Saint-Gobain factory is producing plate glass at a scale and quality Venice never matched. The Hall of Mirrors is finished, and it is built entirely with French glass. Venice loses the one thing it spent 3 centuries protecting. Here is a short, incomplete list of things that do not exist without glass. The telescope, Galileo, 1610. He points it at Jupiter and sees 4 moons that aren't orbiting Earth. One observation, 1,000 years of accepted cosmology, gone. The universe gets much, much larger. The microscope, Leeuwenhoek, 1670s. A drop of pond water, living creatures, an entire invisible world teeming inside everything. Germ theory follows, modern medicine follows. Eyeglasses. Invented around 1290, they quietly extended the working lives of scholars by decades. The books that wouldn't have been written, the mathematics that wouldn't have been solved, it's genuinely incalculable. Scientific instruments, the thermometer, the barometer, the flask, the test tube, the petri dish, every instrument that made controlled science possible. Remove glass from the history of science and you don't get slower progress. You get a different civilization. It is 1879. Edison demonstrates the first practical electric light bulb. The part everyone remembers is the filament. The part nobody talks about is the glass envelope surrounding it, evacuated of air, maintaining the vacuum that keeps the filament from burning out in seconds. The early production problems aren't electrical. They are glass. Getting the seal right, getting the vacuum right, getting the glass to survive the heat without cracking. The light bulb is a glass problem that happens to involve electricity. By the early 20th century, glass is so embedded in modern life that it has become invisible. Bottles, windows, lenses, instruments, the infrastructure of civilization, hiding in plain sight. And then, in the second half of the century, it becomes something else entirely. The screen, your phone, your laptop, the display on every ATM, every airport gate, every self-checkout. The glass on a modern smartphone is chemically strengthened under heat and pressure, achieving a hardness that would have seemed impossible to anyone in Venice. It is produced at thicknesses measured in fractions of a millimeter. But here is the wild part. Fiber optic cables. The physical infrastructure carrying nearly all global internet traffic is made of glass. Ultra-pure, precision-manufactured glass, so transparent that a light signal can travel 60 miles through it before losing half its strength. The internet is not wireless. It is not invisible. It runs through glass cables on the ocean floor, connecting every continent, carrying every message, every transaction, every video call. Glass has one property that has never changed. Drop it and it breaks. Venice and France knew this, because once the knowledge was gone, it was gone. You cannot unshatter a secret. The modern glass supply chain has the same vulnerability. A handful of factories produce the specialized glass that semiconductor manufacturers need. The lenses inside the machines that print microchips are ground to tolerances measured in nanometers. There are perhaps 5 companies on Earth that can make them. A single major disruption, a factory fire, a geopolitical rupture, a natural disaster in the wrong location, casts immediately into chip shortages, which cascade into everything that contains a chip, which is now almost everything. The most advanced technological civilization in human history runs on a material that shatters when you drop it. That hasn't changed since someone in Syria first blew into a metal tube 2,000 years ago. Look around again. The window, the screen, the light above you. You're not looking at glass. You're looking through 2,000 years of theft, obsession, and accident. You just can't see it.